So we were talking about where to find data. Um, so this is the second part of the budget webinar, Budget 202 webinar, and we're talking about where to find the data. And we were talking about the budget books. We had just finished talking about where to find your line items in the budget books, and each of the budget bills will be the number preceding the decimal. So House Bill 11, House Bill 2011, and then after the decimal point would be, say, Section 235, which would be the specific line item. And you can find these budget books on the website at the Office of Administration under their division of Budget and Planning. And this is a screenshot of what you would see there. And you can see that for the fiscal year 2020, the departments have made their request. That's that blue icon that looks like a book for fiscal year 2020. And of course, the governor's executive budgets and the other items have not been populated because we don't have the appropriation bills yet. But you can see the previous years going back to 2016, and you can find on here the executive budget prepared for by the governor, his budget summary, operating budgets charts provided by the departments and the Department of OA and Budget and Planning. Then you have the budget department requests. These are the budget books that we were talking about, where you find all that information about the nature of the programs and historic data and all the like. And then appropriations bills. These are the actual bills and how they finally passed, amended, and signed by the governor in previous years. And then fringe estimates are that refers to the cost of benefits for governmental employees. But this is where you find the budget books as on the office. And then when you open up the budget books and you actually go to the certain line item, and this is line item 11.235.
And you can see that underneath core decision item, just off to the right, there's budget unit, which that means something to budget nerds, but not real people. Not that budget nerds aren't real people, but the section number that means something to most of us is that 11.235 right underneath it there.
Mm-hmm. And that's often called Section 235. Medicaid would be Section 208. Very big line item. But this is how you find what it is that you're advocating for. This happens to be the Children's Division core decision item for residential treatment services. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen what the GR component is. That's the funding dollars that come from the general revenue budget. Then you see how many dollars tracked down from the feds, and then the total. So you'll have GR, federal, other, and total. Again, the GR portion is what the legislature can decide to fund. The federal portion is either or determined by just a per capita spend or leveraged by state dollars. But this is where you find where we are on the budget recommendation. Later on, it will be filled in on the right-hand side with the governor's recommendation, whether that stays the same or if he's changed it. And this is where we find the changes. A description of what the funding's for, and other information. This is just another screenshot from...
Let me go back real quick. Sure. The first time we did this, there was a question about the acronyms over on the left-hand side of that chart: PSEE, PSD, TRF. PS is personnel. E&E is expense and equipment. I believe PSD is contracted amount, but let me make sure, because I don't actually know what the acronym is for. And the TRF is a transfer amount. But the big ones that people will usually see in programs is PS, and that's personnel, and E&E is like equipment. And here the feds looks like are buying somebody a stapler for $3. So as you look through these things, you see those weird things like, why is the federal government giving us $3 for expenses and equipment in a $56 million line item? And that will be a question that will come up in the committee. And you know what? If they didn't need that $3 and you need $3 for your program, you found $3.
Here's another screenshot of the that line item, and this is where we get in the budget book historical data. You won't necessarily find this in the budget bill, and that's why we're pointing out that the budget books can be very, very helpful to see appropriations in previous years, how they've changed, and you can track those changes if there are changes, and try to figure out why those changes occurred, if the changes are good or bad, or if you have an opinion at all. But this is information in the budget book that is really, really helpful. And as you can see, the first column is FY 2018 actual dollars spent. And then 2019 is what the program was budgeted to spend. And then what the recommendation is moving forward. So this is very helpful if you're actually tracking the way in which the program is growing or increasing, decreasing, and all the rest. Other information in the budget books tell you a lot about how the program is operated. This is a look at the average monthly number of kids in residential care in the foster care program. And you can see year by year if that's changing, if the projections for those to change, and you may want to look at that and see if there's projected changes that you wouldn't agree with, and start asking questions of why. As we mentioned, a lot of good information in the budget book about the description of the program and what it all means. And so here is the question: what is the source of other funds? This program does not receive other funds, but some programs do, say the tobacco fund. So tobacco taxes or the tobacco settlement funds may be a source of an other, or if there is some other way in which the state garners revenue or dollars and distributes it maybe targetedly, this would come under other.
And I thought that was the end of that. Speaking as a former lawmaker, I can say, and I'm going to back up a couple of things here. Starting here, these are the pages that lawmakers are looking at as they're going through markup, they're going through their Q&A, and they are going through hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of these pages. And so as advocates and folks who care about the programs, the more you can take this actual piece of paper, this document, print it off yourselves and make notes and tags and insert questions that you think lawmakers should be asking department staff, the easier it's going to be for that lawmaker to make sure that they're prepared in that 10 to 15 seconds that the chairman is flipping through their topic. And so not only is that going to be better for you, I think, because you'll get better questions asked, but it also really better prepares that lawmaker to appear that they know what they're talking about and what they're doing when they question that person. It's very impactful for the lawmaker that you're interacting with, but then it becomes very impactful for their colleagues when you can make your champion and your lawmaker extremely well prepared. And the best way to do that is to include notes and things along with these documents to share with your lawmaker and their staff so that they can put these in the right places, just from a practical standpoint, when you're rushing through that committee, that your note is where it needs to be when it needs to be there.
Before we jump over to the Red Book, as I mentioned, other information in the budget book that aren't in the budget bills. What's the authorization for this program? Is it federal, state statute? This is extremely helpful if you want to make sure that we're going about things in the way that they were intended, or the way the law was passed. Again, are there federal matching requirements and the explanation of those? This is maybe for a new member of the budget committee, new lawmaker that's not really familiar with how the federal government helps us fund certain programs in the state. This can be explained under this piece. Here we talk about children in the program and the feds giving what they call an FMAP, the Federal Medical Assistance Percentage, and it fluctuates during on annually or from year to year based on population, national economic data. But generally, there's a state matching requirement about 35%, and the feds give us 65%. And so this is a Medicaid program, and it gets Medicaid matching funds. They call those FMAP. And so you'll hear the term FMAP, and that's what this is. But this also helps you inform your champion to understand that, yeah, the state's putting up some GR, but we're getting, every dollar we put up, we get $2 from the feds to help take care of our kids that are being abused and need to be housed by the state. And is it a federally mandated program? And this one is, yeah. And it tells you what law passed by Congress requires the state to do this. All right. So other places to get information, as Jeremy pointed out, the House and the Senate are always on the same platform, and they're not with regard to the budget. And the budget books are essentially put out by the departments and housed on and used in the beginning of the House process and the Office of Administration. But the Senate has the Senate Appropriations Committee and their staff, and they put out the Red Book. And the Red Book is a good place to go for information, a little bit more historical information. This is a screenshot of the online version of the Red Book that can be found at the Senate website. And you can see up in the upper left-hand corner the URL for the Senate, so senate.mo.gov, 17 info 2017 Red Book. And it will have a lot of information regarding historical spending, where the spending is, a lot of similar information to the budget recommendations, but it's also a reference point to find out more and more about what's going on with specific programs, how they've been funded. This is for FY 2017 that comes out FY 2018. The new Red Book has not come out yet, but we expect it at some point in time soon. And a very important page to be aware of. This is the House budget page. So up in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you can see the URL. So you go to Missouri General Assembly, you go to the House page, the Missouri House page, and click on the budget link, which is on the first page of the House. And this brings up all of the information you need to know and track the budget bills as they go through the legislative process. And it's very, very transparent on the House side. And this is a great resource, relatively new, handed to the budget chairman and his staff and the speaker and everybody in the House side to make this as a transparent process as possible. On the left-hand side, you can see all of the budgets. Of course, these will be for FY 2019, so last year's budget bills. You will see the sponsor of those bills, who will be the budget chairman. Again, the name Scott Fitzpatrick as the chair of the bill or the committee, and the sponsor of all the bills. You will see the subcommittees and links to who the chairs and the members of those committees will be. Facts on the budget on the right-hand side, and then some of the working documents that move through the process will be on your right-hand side. And so this is a great reference to follow the process as the budget bills kind of morph and change and move through the whole process. One of the sheets on here would be the floor amendments for the House. And so this is just a screenshot of what that looks like. And you can see over on the left-hand side, the bill number, the section number. Next to that would be the sponsor of the amendment, whether it's an increasing or decreasing amendment, and where the funds come from. As we move across the spreadsheet to the right-hand side, you see the nature of the funds, whether they're GR, other, federal, whether it's an increase or a decrease. And so you find these on the budget pages. We try to get them out as they become available, if they're only in paper form. But this is a good way to track what's going on, who's trying to make changes to the budget, and whether or not your line item may be impacted by that. Again, where to find the data, the departmental budget request on the OA website, Office of Budget and Planning, Division of Budget and Planning, I should say. The governor's recommended budget will be there as well. The House budget bills and committee tracking documents will be on the House page under their budget link. It's also tracked on an OA as well, but a lot of the tracking documents as it goes through the committee process will be found on the House side. So this is where you find the data as we go through the process. One other thing, the Missouri Budget Project puts out what we call budget primers, and they're on separated in different issues areas. So you can see here we have budget basics for child welfare, child care and early childhood education, family and economic security, K through 12 education, mental health, public health and nutrition, community services for seniors and people with disabilities. And this gets down into the nitty gritty. You can find all kinds of information, historic information about how these programs are budgeted, where the dollars come from, how they're broken down, how they move around. It's not necessarily linked to individual budget bills, but really kind of issue areas. And so that's a resource that the Budget Project makes available. We update them every year. We're in the process of updating them again for the current year, but historically it's a way to get good information and figure out where things are funded inside the budget. So that's one of the things that the Budget Project puts out for folks, advocates to use as they go through their process. If you want to get involved, sign up for our email updates. You can sign up at the website, mobudget.org. You can contact me at bcolby@mobudget.org. Asked to be signed up for our email updates. You're invited to join our update calls. We do them for different coalitions. Last year, 3 p.m. on Thursdays for the Missouri Health Partnership. I also do updates on the Kids Update coalition calls on Friday mornings. We're available to periodically give legislative updates, and that's one way to track what's going on under the Coalition for the Missouri Health Partnership or the Kids Advocates. And then we also have the Campaign for Tax Fairness that Jeremy leads.
And the Campaign for Tax Fairness is an effort to continue the good work that the Budget Project and others have done in their coalitions around tax policy, and it's basically just naming the tax coalitions that have happened before. And part of that campaign, we would love to have people invite the Missouri Budget Project to your nonprofit board of directors or your community group or your organization to talk about Missouri's tax policy and how our unfair and regressive tax policy is leading to budget shortfalls and crises in various programs. It's modeled, the campaign and these sort of set of seminars are modeled after an effort that was done in Kansas over several years that moved their state from a state that was enacting significant draconian tax cuts under Sam Brownback to implementing significant tax reform under the most recent Republican governor and Republican-led legislature. And so to whatever extent folks are willing and able to invite the Missouri Budget Project to your communities in all pockets of the state, we want to talk to people about Missouri's tax code and how it treats the vast majority of people very unfairly. And in doing so, not only is it unfair to people, but it shorts our communities from the resources that they need. So that's my shameless plug for the Campaign for Tax Fairness.
So if you want to get involved, let us know. Many ways to plug in, and we look forward to being a resource um, for advocates as we go through the legislative process every year. And we look forward to working with you. And thanks for spending a little bit of your time with us. And let's keep in touch, and let's keep moving to make Missouri a better place for families, kids, and all citizens of the state.
Go team. Oh, and don't forget to vote.